Well, that's a very good question, and it is pervasive in society. I think that the number one reason that many people don't believe in the existence of God is because of evolution. And we've been taught that evolution is how we got here, therefore, because it's assumed that it's a scientific fact, therefore God does not exist. So let's look at the theory for a moment. We start with nothing, there's an explosion, and that produces everything over billions and billions of years. The birds and the trees, the flowers, the moon, the sun, the stars, elephants, human beings, everything we've got. And this happens by random chance natural selection over billions of years. Charles Darwin said that in order for his theory to be true, there must be millions of in-between stages, transitional forms in the fossil record. And that if within 100 years we don't find those transitional forms, that his theory should be discarded. Well, more than 100 years has gone by, and those missing links, those transitional forms, those in-between stages, are still missing. They thought they found some of them. One of them was back in 1999. If you do the research, you'll find that a Chinese farmer glued together the head of a bird and parts of a reptile and completely fooled the worldwide scientific community, including National Geographic, with what they thought was a transitional form. It was called Archaeoraptor. Smithsonian Institution actually accused National Geographic of engaging in sensationalistic tabloid journalism. It was a hoax. Now, there is something called microevolution. This is very different. Microevolution is adaptation within a species. Look at dogs. You've got the tiny Chihuahua and the Great Dane. They're very different, but they're both dogs. Or horses. You've got zebras and donkeys. You've got the dwarf pony and the draft horse. Very different, but they're horses. Horses produce horses, and dogs produce dogs. Adaptation within a species is totally different than man evolving from an entirely different species. Science has never found a genuine transitional form that is one kind of animal crossing over into another kind, either living or in the fossil record. And there's supposed to be billions of them. Now, what I'm about to show you does not exist. These were actually created by our graphic artists, but I want you to keep your eye out for this, because this is what evolutionists have been searching for hundreds of years. All right? And if you find one of these, you could become rich and famous. So here's some transitional forms. This is called the crocodile. Can you see this? Crocodile and a duck. All right, let's try another one. This is the bullfrog. Half bull, half frog, or, of course, the sheepdog. And you're laughing, of course. Now, some of you might be saying, wait a minute, look at the platypus. There is a mammal with hair and a bill like a duck. Well, yeah, it's a strange one, and that's exactly how God made it. And there's plenty of strange animals like that. Nature is observable proof that every animal brings forth after its own kind. No one has ever seen a horse produce a non-horse, or a bird produce anything but another bird. Even the famous fossil Archaeopteryx, said to be a reptile transitioning into a bird. If you do the research, you'll find out it has been shown to be fully bird, a perching bird. It has feathers. We even have a website. It's called intelligentdesignversusevolution.com. It offers $10,000 to anyone who can present a genuine living transitional form. Charles Darwin said, quote, often a cold shudder has run through me as I've asked myself whether I may not have devoted myself to a fantasy. Time magazine. Scientists concede that their most cherished theories are based on embarrassingly few fossil fragments and that huge gaps exist in the fossil record. Newsweek. The more scientists have searched for the transitional forms that lie between species, the more they've been frustrated. And scientist Ernest Chain, Nobel Prize winner for developing penicillin, said, quote, I would rather believe in fairy tales than in such wild speculation. Nature is proof, observable proof, that God made us to produce after our own kind. Man did not evolve from amoebas. Okay?
It's actually too easy to answer. I mean, every single person in here is a transitional form. Every single fossil that has ever been found is a transitional fossil. To say anything otherwise is to show the person to be extremely ignorant about the topic of evolution and science. What I'm saying is that every single person alive, every animal that has ever lived is a transitional fossil. Correct. However, you can look back at what I transitioned from.
No, I'm asking.
You can look at fossils like Australopithecus afarensis. All life is constantly evolving. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that people evolve over time. All animals evolve over time. The claim that there have never been any transitional fossils found. I talked to the American Museum of Natural History this week. They were unfortunately unable to bring fossils here. Anybody can go to the exhibit. They have plenty of fossils there to show. Kirk and Ray, I will get you free tickets. I'll pay for the tickets. You need to go and see the exhibits. There are plenty of transitional fossils there. Hundreds and thousands have been found. We put together, I figured you would say this because I know this is your stock, rationalresponders.com/evolution proof.
Could you give us one now? A transitional form? Just be specific.
Well, you have
Just
to go
one.
look
Just
at
one.
them. Australopithecus afarensis.
What's the transitional form from what?
From a previous other ape-like creature to the, what we have today. Australopithecus afarensis lived about 7 million years ago. There are plenty of transitional
know that,
fossils
Brian?
in between, because you can date it
How can it be dated?
with, what is it?
Radiometric
right.
dating.
And you believe that?
Okay, we're not going to get into
faithful.
like we're all believing this on faith.
Let me go back for one moment, because you can expose the sort of, and I don't mean offense, Kirk. I really like you when I use the word ignorance, but when you say that evolution says we start with nothing, and that was how you opened your statement, you actually show that you have no understanding of evolution. That's actually the theory of abiogenesis. That's how all things started. Okay, that's how life started on Earth. Evolution happens after we were already here, after life started. You spoke about an example where the chicken head and then the Smithsonian exposed it as a fraud. That's a good example of how science works. We learn from our mistakes. Yeah, they got tricked. They figured it out. We now change that to accept what was the fact. You talk about
Until you find out
microevolution.
that was maybe wrong, and you have to scrap the theory again and come up with the next one.
And it'll
You
happen over
scrap
and over.
one fossil out of the hundreds of thousands that are available. You spoke about microevolution and how we have that, but not macroevolution. I'd ask you, how can you not walk a mile taking one step at a time? Microevolution is one step at a time. Macro is when you get to that end of that mile. How can you not walk a mile taking one step at a time?